Hey guys, we're going to continue with Module 1. In this video, I'm going to go through the notes and examples for 1.3, and we're going to be multiplying and dividing with real numbers, including our integer operations and our fraction operations. So multiplying and dividing numbers with the same sign. So the answer to a multiplication problem is called the product, and the answer to a division problem is called the quotient. So when we're finding the product or quotient, with numbers that have the same sign, our answer is always going to be positive. So, same sign, they're both positive. 9 times 5 is 45. 6 times 7 is 42. And yes, even though they're both negative, as long as they have the same sign, my answer is positive. Same exact thing for division. So negative 12 divided by negative 4 is the same as 12 divided by 4, which is 3. We can see division as a fraction as well, so this is read 18 over 3 or 18 divided by 3, which is 6. So anytime I have the same sign, my answer is always positive. Now when I'm finding the product or quotient and I have different signs, so a positive times a negative or a negative divided by a positive, my answer is going to be negative. So I like to just think about it without the sign. So in this case, I think in my head 2 times 4. 2 times 4 is 8, but I have one negative. So as long as I have one negative there, it's going to be negative 8. Same thing here. 24 divided by 6 is 4, but I have different signs, so it's going to be negative 4. Here I'm multiplying 3 together. So when we're doing multiplication or division, we always want to work left to right. So I'm going to actually do the first two first here. So negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. So I just did 2. Now I'm going to finish it and do now negative 12 times negative 4. Well, negative times a negative from our rule up above is positive. So that's going to be positive 48. So if you have more than 2 numbers, be careful. Kind of do your rule 2 numbers at a time because that can change your result. Okay, now let's review some of our fraction operations here. All right, so let's talk about multiplying with fractions here. Okay, so something that is super useful when you're multiplying with fractions is something called cross-canceling. So basically what that means is we're trying to reduce the fractions before we multiply so that we're not using such huge numbers. It makes the mathematics in your head way easier. So how that works is we look at the numerators, and I actually ask myself, can I divide out anything from both 11 and 2? I can also do it across diagonally, and I can ask myself about 11 and 5. Same thing with the 3. I can look at this fraction together, and I can look at the diagonal. So in this one, unfortunately, there's nothing I can divide out. 11 and 5, there's nothing I can divide out of each of those. Same with 11 and 2. 3 and 2, 3 and 5, none of them have a common factor I can divide out. So if I can't cross-cancel, I'm going to jump right into this piece. Multiply straight across. So numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So 11 times 3 on the top and 2 times 5 on the bottom is going to give me 33 over 10. And then we always do want to check, could we reduce that any further? And in this case, we cannot. Okay, let's look at that cross-canceling. So 6 and 7 cannot be reduced. Is there something I could divide out of 6 and 9? Answer here is yes. So we are going to divide out a common factor of 3. 3 goes into both of those numbers. We can divide that out. So if I divide 3 out of negative 6, I'm left with negative 2. If I also divide that 3 out of 9, 9 divided by 3 is 3. Okay, and I've cross-canceled that way. 2 and 7, there's nothing. 2 and 3, there's nothing. So I have reduced as much as I can at this point before I jump into multiplying. So negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. 7 times 3 is 21, and that does not reduce any further. Okay, check for cross-canceling. So 2 and 3, no. 2 and 7, no. 15 and 3, yes. They have a common factor of 3. 3 goes into both of those values. So I'm going to divide out 3. So 3 divided by 3 is now a 1. 15 divided by 3, that's now a 5. So I've simplified. Now I'm going to multiply. 2 times 5 is 10. 1 times 7 is 7. And typically, guys, if you simplify as much as you can before you multiply, you won't have to simplify at the end. That kind of saves you a little bit of time. All right, dividing. Here is a kind of a helpful just phrase to remember. Keep, change, flip. So what that means, what division really is, here's kind of the technical definition. Division is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So reciprocal is kind of a fancy word for flip. So a fraction, such as this one, 13 over 4, its reciprocal would be 4 over 13, just flipped. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep the first fraction, change the division to multiplication, and then we're going to flip the second fraction so that we are abiding by this definition. We are changing the multiplication changing the division so that it is multiplying by the reciprocal. By definition, those are the same thing. So we're going to keep the first fraction, change to multiplication, and flip the second fraction. Now it's a multiplication problem, so we just follow our rules for multiplication. Check and see, can you cross cancel, and then multiply straight across. 13, 4, 13, 1, no. 2 and 4, yes, I can divide both of those by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, 4 divided by 2 is 2. So now it is 13 times 1, multiplying straight across, and 2 times 1 on the bottom. Okay, this is kind of the faster way, you guys, I like to do cross-canceling, is I actually just like to cross out the numbers and put what the new one is after I've divided out the common factor. Okay, integers. Remember, we can always put them over 1 so that when we're working with fractions, we can abide by our usual fraction rules. So keep the first fraction, change to multiplication, flip the second one. Now, here's a good moment to talk about this. Negatives with fractions, a lot of people get confused. Is this, here I'm just going to do this at the bottom here. So, negative 1/4 is the same as 1 over negative 4, which is also the same as a negative in the middle. You can see that written each way. What it's not the same as is the negative on both the top and bottom, because remember, a negative divided by a negative is positive. So this is not correct, but any of these situations is fine. So it doesn't really matter how you do it. Because the negative was on the 4 to start, I moved it to the bottom, but if you kept it one of these ways, does not matter. So I'm going to check, can I cross cancel here? 3, nope, doesn't look like it. So we're going to multiply straight across, so 3 times 1 is 3. 10 times negative 4 is negative 40. So again, you can write it like this, or like this, or like this. The negative kind of in between the two. Any of those is correct. Okay, last one is a mixed number example. So remember, before doing any fraction operations, we want to change it to an improper fraction. So 5 times 8 is 40, plus 3 is 43. Keep the denominator, keep the sign. And then I'm just going to write it as division first before we flip it. Okay, so 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Keep the denominator. Now I have a division problem with improper fractions, so now we're going to keep the first fraction, change to multiplication, flip the second fraction. And I don't think I can do any cross-canceling here either, so we're going to jump right into multiplying straight across. So let's see, we got 129. Negative 43 times 3. And 5 times 7 is 35. Okay. All right, that's it for the examples for 1.3.